you've been here in Mumbai and you're on a kind of a mission. Can you just tell us the report as to what exactly it is?
Yeah, so I've been travelling around the world now for 9 months so far, and it'll be a total of 11 months. And I'm writing a book and sort of filming a small documentary along the way through my travels. And while I'm travelling in many parts of the world, I'm basing the film part of it in 4 main areas, which is America, Cambodia, Japan and India. And so here I am in Mumbai right now, which is like the 4th and final destination as part of as part of that film project.
Okay, so what is this 4 sides of a coin?
So 4 sides of a coin. I think initially I was thinking about writing a book while I was travelling. I wanted to have some purpose while I was travelling. I always wanted to write a book anyway. And also, to, you know, if you're travelling solo for quite a long time, to fill some time in your days. If you end up by a beach for 3 weeks, that can get pretty boring, so it's good to have something to do. And then I thought about trying to give a bit of value to places I was going to, because I think when you travel it's good to leave something positive rather than just take, or, you know, go and grab a bunch of selfies in front of some great stuff and then, you know, off you go to the next place. So I thought, what if I was to interview the people in the places where I went to, and then share that, and then share, it's impossible, isn't it? And then share that with other people around the world who might be interested to see that, and that actually gives the people where I'm visiting a voice outside of their country a little bit, maybe. And then I thought, why not film it and make it into a documentary? And in fact, the book has become more of a personal journal for myself, which is all about my travelling in every country around the world and my kind of views, thoughts and perspective. And the documentary is really going to be based on those 4 countries I mentioned. And it's not going to be anything of me in it, it's just going to be about the people I've met, and it's going to be their voices and their thoughts rather than mine.
Have you been cheated at any point of time, or mostly they've been just like very good human beings who've treated you well?
Yeah, honestly, I would say around 99% of the time everyone has been super kind, super lovely, very welcoming, very generous, very thoughtful and very sweet. If anything, most people have gone above and beyond what is it, you know, hoped for from anyone in every aspect of everywhere I've been. Occasionally, of course, you always have people like taxis, buses, or whatever that try and rip you off, but that's the same in my country and the same in every country. So that's just one of those things. But no, it's been good and very positive.
Any time that you've like lost money or you've been cheated, or
not so much cheated. I mean, I've had, like, when you're traveling a lot of the time and you're constantly moving and you're moving your belongings and you're busy and you're tired and you're doing so many things, it's very easy to forget things or to lose things. And, you know, I've been away for a year, so whilst you have a lot of good luck, there's always going to be times when you have bad luck. I've had a hard drive crash and lose a lot of my files. I've lost a bank card in Thailand. I almost lost my laundry in Mumbai this week. I've lost a lot of stuff, but, you know, I've gained so much. I mean, that's just, those things are just belongings, are just stuff, but what I've gained is experience which could never be lost. So.
Okay, so one thing we must know, I mean, not must, we'd like to know is your life in England. It was good. People in India would be envying you of it. You worked in Airbus, you had a good apartment. What drove you to doing something so unusual?
I think when you're younger, social programming kind of tells you that you should have a house, you should have a marriage, you should have cars, mow your lawn on the weekend, and all these things that you're supposed to do. And to have those things, you have to have the good education for the good job, which I do agree, you do need to have good education and have the opportunity to earn money, because I'm only here because I'm selling my apartment and quitting my job. And if I didn't have that job, I wouldn't have had the apartment, couldn't have sold it, couldn't have done this travelling. So education and working is important, but I don't believe that you have to follow a particular path that society says you have to. So I kind of like to question everything which is before me, really. And whilst I had a nice job in a successful company and corporation, most of the people working there didn't ever really seem that happy, and it wasn't the most enjoyable experience in terms of work-life balance. I think the company is a very great company, and I thank them very much for my time there. And actually, as a kind of geek, that was a great place to work. You know, aeroplanes are interesting, space and defence is interesting, but I think corporate business is just not really for me. And I don't really think that having a good job or having a good home means you're going to be happy, or is going to make you grow in any way. So.
Okay, talking of Indian experiences, please tell me, with all these tattoos and your attire, what were the kind of reactions they have evoked?
From Indian people?
Yes.
A lot of people. I mean, I have to admit, it's funny because in England, there's still a stigma in England with some people, older generations, where they're like, oh, that's it. Most of the people really like them, and a lot of people in England kind of have them. It's quite fashionable these days, right? But travelling around the world, wherever I go, nearly everyone always says, oh wow, nice tattoo. They just like them, they kind of think they're cool or whatever. And it actually becomes a talking point, and a lot of people like to come up, some kids like to touch them or whatever. Indian people generally always say really nice things. I walk past, they say like, oh, I love your tattoos, oh, so cool, so cool. Which is really sweet of them. One or two of the older people, they kind of say to me, do they wash off? So I can assure you, I've tried a few times, they don't wash off, they are permanent. One old guy did ask me if I could seriously work in a corporation by having tattoos, and then I enlightened him that I could wear a shirt. And I don't normally dress like this for working in a company. So.
And aren't people here interested in knowing whether you're married or not?
This is very true. A lot of people ask if I'm married, if I have a car, what age I was when I left school. They like to know everything about you in like 2 minutes, which is actually very nice, because it's not, don't get me wrong, it's very nice to be having people have that interest in me and to be so friendly and welcoming, so it's not a problem.
What's the 1932?
So 1932 is the year my father was born. My father was older when he got married to my mother, and I was like the unique child of my mother and father, though they both had children from their previous marriages. And my father was my hero, really, and so that was the year he was born.
And I can see something like, that's an owl.
So there's an owl, some rows and guns. So owls are kind of like symbolic towards the leaving of the spirit and this kind of thing. And my father passed away about 15 years ago. I think it's about 15 years ago. And so there's a few things which kind of relate to that a little bit. But one of the ones I like the most is just around there. It has my father's signature.
I was going to ask you what's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my father, he used to be a painter and an artist. And I used to watch him do his paintings every single day. He would take 2 to 3 days of solid work, either on a watercolour or an oil painting. And every day I'd come back and watch the progress, but I'd always know it was only finished when he signed it in the corner. And I remember thinking I really wanted Dad's signature on me, but I had to, he'd already passed away, so I had to scurry through as many boxes as I could. And I found an old note he'd written to a teacher, telling him that I didn't have to do sports that day because I didn't have my PE kit. And he signed it, so I was like, cool, so there you go.
And then what's on your hand?
My hand, this one. Mm-hmm. So this is just like a lotus flower, which kind of symbolises growth and eternity, I think. Really?
There's a lady.
This is literally just a pretty lady.
Okay. And then...
The ship?
Yes.
So the ship is actually in the United Kingdom. There was a naval commander called Lord Admiral Nelson who fought the battle with Napoleon. It was Nelson versus Napoleon. I think Nelson won, at least for a time. You'd have to check the historical facts. But his ship was called the Victory. And the Victory was actually based in Portsmouth in England, which is where I was living for many years. And Nelson was actually one of my father's heroes as well. So a lot of people have ships as tattoos, and I thought, well, it's actually a kind of meaningful one, so yeah.
His skulls.
Skulls. So this is quite an old one, to be honest, but I wanted a few like classic tattoo things, so like a pretty girl, some skulls and things, but also the words love, lust and loss. I think of lust for my father. Lust is kind of important in a relationship, and love is also very important. And there's a big candle just there. Yes. Which is actually, when I travel, I try and go into a church. I'm not really religious, but I still like to go into a church and light a candle for my father, because he was a traveller and an explorer, and he didn't get to explore many places he wanted to, even though we lived on a boat and different things. So before he got the chance to sail around the world, he was cruelly taken from us. But while I'm now travelling around the world, I always like to light a candle for him, and then he can come with me everywhere we go.
On this arm, another lady.
Some of these are just guilty pleasures. They're just like
Okay.
lists of some.
And then we have,
Dartmouth.
yes,
So this is the town shield of Dartmouth, which is the river town I grew up in the southwest of England when we were living on a boat. And it's the one place I'd kind of consider home.
you lived on a boat for
Yeah.
how many years?
About 4 years, I think.
And how was your experience living on a
Yeah, it's
boat?
amazing. My older brother Darren, and my mum and my dad, they basically worked every weekend without fail for 2 years building the boat. They bought a steel hull, and everything, all the interior was designed and built by my father, my mum, and my brother. So they worked very hard, and we lived on the boat down in Devon in the southwest of England. It's a really beautiful place, and this beautiful river called the River Dart in Dartmouth. And it's great. You know, I think my friends thought it was cool, like, oh wow, you live on a boat. But I was not really young enough. My brother, on the other hand, he was like 16, 17, so he could bring his girlfriends, oh, come back to my boat. I was like 8 or 9, and I was just eating chips.
And where's the boat today?
The boat? Oh, I don't know. It got sold when my parents got a divorce, and it got sold back in the early 90s. It had some problems with it, actually. They sold it. There's a little story. I don't know if you want to hear it. So there's a story that when my father sold it, he sold it to this guy called Tony.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were living down in Devon on the boat, and my father sold the boat to this guy called Tony, who's one of his friends. Tony wanted to charter the boat out, so to rent the boat out, to earn a bit of money while keeping the boat and paying it off. The first guys he rented it out to were these Irish guys, about 5 or 6 Irish guys, and they're basically going down, I think it was to Portugal. I think it was going down to Portugal, and as soon as the boat left England, the Her Majesty's Coast Guard and Customs started following this boat. Now on the way back from Portugal, coming back to England, they had a problem. There was some water coming in somewhere, which was very strange, because to be honest, we'd never had a problem with the boat at the time we had it. But water started coming in, so they called the Coast Guard, who happened to be very close by because they were actually kind of following them, as were Customs. And then Customs raided the boat, and these guys were basically drug smugglers. And they found £7.5 million worth of cannabis on board the boat. And it was the biggest cannabis drugs haul in like about 11 years or something at the time. And then of course the boat got back, and then poor Tony, who owned the boat, he had to have the boat totally stripped by Customs. He ripped it to pieces inside. And then it's still around. My brother saw it like in a classified ad somewhere in a yachting magazine about 5 or 10 years ago. So I think it's still floating somewhere.